everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for this week's episode of When I Grow Up. On today's episode, it's my pleasure to welcome my guest, Jonathan Lim. Hey, Jonathan, how are you?
Great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, no, I was really excited to do it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so for some backstory for people, it's really crazy, I feel like.
Yeah, it is pretty crazy. Yeah.
So like Jonathan and I, we went to church together at a church called Hanin like over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow, yeah, over 10 years ago
Yeah,
now.
and so you were in high school probably.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we lost touch, obviously. I moved and things like that, and he moved. But then recently you moved back to Atlanta,
Mhm.
right? And then you started going to a church here in Atlanta, and then my husband and I happen to be friends with your pastor and his wife.
Yes.
And they brought you up to me because they're like, Blair, we know someone that would be so awesome for your podcast. And I'm like, cool. And you guys, I don't even know anything about what he does, but from the just description of what his pastor told me, I was like, yeah, he's got to be on the podcast. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then long story really short is he was like, actually, I think you might know him. I'm like, there's no way I know this guy.
Yeah.
And it was you, and I was so shocked. So it was really cool. I'm glad we got to connect like this.
Yeah, it was just super weird. I was just like, I can't believe like I haven't spoken to her in like over a decade.
Yeah.
Over a decade.
And super random. So I'm just really grateful that you even agreed to come on and share with me a little bit.
Yeah, I love sharing about what I do.
Perfect. So without more prompting, Jonathan, like, tell me, what is it that you do?
Okay, so the title, or like I guess unofficial title, is called a grocer. And
how do you spell that?
a grocer, like GROSSER.
Okay, grocer.
Yeah, a grocer. And my official title would be a histotechnician.
Okay.
So basically, we deal with histology, which is the study of cells, like a closer view of cells. Like histology or like cytology is any study of cells in general. And my job as a grocer is to take whatever specimens that we get. So my lab, which I don't think I'm allowed to say. So I'll just say, the lab that I work for, we specialize in podiatry.
Oh, like so feet.
Yeah, so feet, yeah. So we'll get skin samples in from anywhere from like the leg down. We'll get skin samples, we'll get nail samples, and obviously we get amputations. So we'll get toes, we'll get feet, sometimes we'll get full legs, just from like waist down, just legs. And my job is to sort of, I guess like it's my job to kind of estimate or like guess or use the best like intuitively my knowledge to kind of figure out where on that amputation or skin sample or nail where I think the most amount of bacterial culture is or fungal is, or most of the amputations we get are from diabetics. So that'll be infected from some sort of cellulitis, which is any sort of infection of the skin.
Okay.
And I will cut that up and then submit it for PCR or histoanalysis. And PCR stands for polymerase chain reaction, which is like a DNA study of whatever it is that the patient got infected with. We take that, we analyze it, and we send that information off to the doctors, to whichever doctor sent us the skin sample or any sort of specimen. So yeah, so that's what I do.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so many questions. But like, first of all, like the skin samples that you get, like they are like what, diseased samples or?
Well, yes and no. I mean, a lot of times doctors, they'll take samples of skin and nail, or amputations obviously are 100% infected with something.
Okay.
The doctors just don't know what it is, and they're just trying to find out what it is.
I see.
for skin samples, dermatologists will send, shavings of skin or punches, which are these small cylindrical cuts of like skin that they will literally punch. Like they will take,
Okay.
yeah, they'll take an instrument and they'll literally take a punch of skin out, and there'll be small cylindrical pieces anywhere from
Like,
like
okay, it's not, it doesn't really matter, but I'm just curious, like when you say
right.
cylindrical, like I picture like this, like almost like a straw, like a tube type of.
Yeah, that's exactly what it
Okay,
is.
okay.
Yeah, it's a punch. Yeah, it's a punch of skin, and that could be anywhere from, depending on how deep the doctor goes into the skin, that could be anywhere from 1 to 5 centimeters.
Oh my
Centimeters.
gosh.
If it's
Okay.
5 centimeters, the doctor will, probably he's probably guessing that something severe is going on.
I see.
So that could be for skin. That could be for ENFD, which is ENFD is more dealing with the nervous system.
Okay.
And so, yeah, doctors will take punches out of patients' skins and send it to us. But sometimes, like the doctor will examine the patient's skin and say, like, I think you have dermatitis. So they'll take, shavings of skin off, just like the flaky or like whatever is flaking off the patient's skin, whether it be
Uh-huh.
the scalp or arm, leg, wherever it is. And they'll send it to us and we analyze and we confirm that it is indeed dermatitis. If we
Okay.
find any other, I don't know,
Abnormalities.
yeah, any abnormalities or underlying conditions that they don't know about, they might have, possibly melanoma, which is like cancerous,
Okay.
obviously. So, yeah, I mean, there could be a lot of things.
Okay. So like you like take it and analyze it yourself, or you're sending it to somewhere else as well?
No, so I personally don't do any of the analysis.
Okay.
We have something called SOPs, which are basically these massive documents that the doctors and our lab directors will kind of write out.
Okay.
And we will read through them. And that is sort of our guidance into identifying or kind of seeing or visualizing where we think, whatever that we're looking for is most abundant in which area, in like a specific area of that specimen.
Why is that important?
So like for example, like if we got, a bag of toenails, right?
Uh-huh. Gross. So gross.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's really nasty. Yeah, it's just dealing with feet in general, it's just
Right.
nasty.
Right.
But let's say we get a bag of toenails and it's got like yellow nail syndrome, right?
Okay.
So I mean, yellow nails, I mean, naturally you don't just get yellow nails, right?
Sure.
So, that could be a fungal infection or some bacterial infection of the nails, which is causing, some other sort of infection or skin condition.
Uh-huh.
Because,
Uh-huh.
if your nail gets infected, it can move onto your skin, right, underneath the
Right.
toenail. So doctors will cut those off, and then we'll look at the nails and say, it's like, okay, for example, like our PCR tests, we test two different things, like PCR analysis, which is the DNA portion of it, and then the histo part, which we do special stains. And when you do those
Okay.
special stains, you can identify certain strains of bacteria or certain strains of fungi, things like this. So my job is to look at that nail and say, it's like, okay, where do I think or where do I know the most of the, like, I guess, bacterial colony is or fungal colony is?
Okay.
And that's usually found in the distal toe nail, which is like the very tip of the toenail, which is kind of strange that it doesn't penetrate any deeper than that. But yeah, I have to look and analyze and kind of cut and then submit for, the rest of the process in the lab.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So you're kind of the beginning stages of this analysis that's happening then.
Yes, I'm the very beginning, and my position is sort of the most crucial because if I mess up what I do,
Mm-hmm.
then as the nail or specimen gets, goes down the line, their part gets messed up.
I see. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Like this chain
Yeah.
reaction of
Yeah.
events.
So my position is sort of the most important because we're the earliest. So if we mess up, then the embedders mess up, and then the cutters mess up, and then the stainers mess up, and then the doctors can't tell what's happening in the tissue. or the
Oh, that's
specimen.
crazy. Okay,
Yeah.
so like what does a typical day look like for you then? Like if you were to go in the lab, like what yeah, how do you start and or does it differ every day?
No, it's pretty much that's the one thing. It's a very repetitive, mundane job, I would
Okay.
say. And only because I work in a private lab. Now, if I was in a
Mm.
hospital, that could differ on a day-to-day basis. But so I'll get there around 8 a.m. I'll set up my station. That's like filling up my, I guess, my containers full of RNAs and alcohol. RNAs
Okay.
is just like a substance that kind of washes away any DNA or like RNA substance
Oh,
from one specimen to the other, so it doesn't cross contaminate.
what does R stand for in RNA?
I think it's I forgot. I should know this. It's I was a biology.
I get no,
I
so
had
how is it
biology
different than
degree too.
DNA? It doesn't really matter. I'm just curious.
RNAs and DNAs, it's like one is deoxyribose and the other one is ribose.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of
So
know that.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So it's just it's like that, and then alcohol to kind of kill off anything else that would kind of you know cross over into the next specimen because
Okay.
we have a mallet and we have a scalpel that we have to cut things in like cut into things. So
Okay, so like when you get limbs and stuff,
yeah.
like so you're cutting open these limbs.
Yeah, like we'll so most of so most of these amputations, like for example, the most common we get are like toes
Okay.
from diabetics.
Uh,
So
I don't know like what that means really. Like, do a lot of is it why do limbs die off when you're diabetic?
so diabetics, I mean, it's their whole thing with like so it's basically their immune system destroying their insulin, right?
Right. Okay, that I
Yeah.
know.
So that and then that causes complications in just like multiple different parts of the body.
I see.
See, like that, I mean, that autoimmune disease can, cause, I don't know, like an infection. If you get hurt from something, if you get a cut or something, right, and you're diabetic, your immune system might not be responding properly to that.
Okay.
To be
Okay.
fighting off whatever you get infected with.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I don't know like this like super fine details of it
That's okay.
because yeah, but yeah, it just causes a lot of complications.
Right.
Like a couple days ago, we had this is actually really sad. This the one kind of sort of sad part of my job is like you get
Mm,
to look at like the patient's information, right? And you get to
mm,
see like the age of the patients. And we had one patient that was 23 years old, type 2 diabetic, and I think like seven of her toes had to get amputated. It's so
oh my
young, so it
goodness.
causes a lot of complications and things like that.
So okay, so I mean, I understand that they have to get amputated because of the disease itself, but then
Right.
why does it come to your lab? Like, what more information are they trying to find out?
Right, because like as I mentioned, doctors can't do that histology portion
I
unless
see.
they have a
Okay.
lab inside of their practice or their hospital. But because we are a private lab, our motto is like a 24-hour turnaround time.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so we're very fast paced and um, we're basically trying to provide the doctor with any more information that he knows. Because
Hmm.
if there is, like, let's say this patient did have an infection in their toe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they amputate it because otherwise it's life threatening.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, cool, we amputated it, but is there anything else that we can learn from the infection?
I
Is there
see.
anything else that's maybe is there another infection that's going on? Is there anything
Mm.
else if there's a nervous system problem, or is there like something going on with you know just like in our body that we just wouldn't know
I
just from an
see. I
amputation.
see.
Yeah, so we have to go in there and kind of dig deeper.
I see. Okay, so you were saying you start your day around 8 and then you set
Yeah,
up your station and then
yeah.
what kind of happens?
And then we just yeah, we did. they just get started. We have accessioners, which are people who kind of do all the data entry for the
Okay.
patients. Um, and we get our shipments from UPS and FedEx. Like
Oh,
they have their own biohazard department, and they'll deliver those bags. And yeah, usually most of the amputations or skin samples, things like that, those are usually transported in or like sent to us through transport mediums.
okay.
Like for example, like formalin. Formalin is a type of chemical that kind of fixes or it prevents the tissue from kind of deteriorating anymore,
Okay.
right? Because I
That
mean,
makes sense.
these are dead. This is dead tissue, right?
Mm-hmm,
They
mm-hmm.
have no blood supply, nothing. So they're if you don't fix it, they rot. And we've
Mm.
had some boneheaded doctors that have sent us like toes in just like Ziploc bags, just rotting in the bag. So by the time it gets here, it's just like black and blue. It's rotting. You open it, it stinks. It smells super bad. Like,
That is so insane
yeah,
to me. Like
yeah,
literally, I tell everyone the same thing. Like a lot of the people that come on the podcast, like they're jobs that I like don't think about, but really, Jonathan, this one I really don't think about.
yeah. This is
This
this is sort of why I enjoy what I do because it's a good conversation starter. Like
no,
I'll ask
and
other people.
just
Yeah,
from hearing about it though, just in the from the front end, I'm like, yeah, I don't think about it, but this seems like an extremely important job to somebody that, you know, I mean, potentially you're saving somebody's life if you're doing your job
yeah,
correctly.
yeah, exactly. And that's I mean, like I said, this is a private lab, so we have a very specific niche in what we do.
Mm.
But I've gone to hospitals and you should see like the grossing rooms in there. There are like brains in jars, there are, Van Deferums, there are like testicles, there are breasts, there are legs, there are hearts. Like, I mean, they do the whole spectrum.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it
Okay.
literally looks like a murder scene. You walk in there and the grosses are just cutting up things and they get saws and stuff. Like, yeah,
That's
a lot more
insane.
intense than what I do.
That's insane. Okay, so I mean, now we have to ask, like, how in the world did you decide that this is what you were gonna do? Like, be a grocer, or like, how did you even end up in this job?
Yeah, so I mean, this is the real interesting part. So I graduated college with the intention of going to medical school,
Okay. Okay,
and
but can I back you up just a little bit?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
even when you went from high school to college, did you know you were going to be in the medical field?
I mean, initially that's what I wanted to do.
Okay.
Initially that's what I wanted to do. So I graduate 2016, and I'm supposed to go to medical school, and then the summer before I was supposed to go, I was like, I had one of those like moments. I was sitting at the like a park bench, literally just feeding the ducks, just whatever. I mean, and then like the sun was setting on me, and I just like I don't know what it was, but I was just like I can't do this. Like I can't go to medical school because medicine is something I feel like you have to have a really strong passion and love for,
Hmm.
and it just wasn't there. I was like, I'm not gonna put myself through what another 6 years at least, especially
Mm-hmm.
because I want to specialize in cardiology. I was like, no, I can't do that. So I was like, oh crap. Well, I just spent the last 4 years studying to do something, and now I don't want to do it.
Hmm.
It's like, what should I do? So I started working a bunch of odd jobs. I was working like a bunch of restaurant jobs, like yeah, I was working like two or three jobs at a time, just trying to figure out like trying to like because from every successful person I've ever read about, they always said always take every opportunity that comes your way.
Hmm.
Right. So it was like, restaurant jobs, I tried a sales job, all these things. And then I was like, man, I gotta do something with my degree. I was like, I was working like a like a server job, right?
Hmm.
And I was like, I have no path right now. So but little backstory to all of this is like, so I've always been a big like nature fan.
Okay.
So when I was 6 years old, I remember reading a National Geographic book about a place called Patagonia
Okay.
in South America.
Uh-huh.
So fast forward till now, I remember I mean, it was Valentine's, Valentine's of 2017. A bunch of my friends and I were single, so we got together and we went to like Taco Mac and we were just like eating wings and stuff. And then my one friend Ryan goes like, "Hey, like, what do you think about teaching English in South America?" And I was like, okay, like where in South America? And he's like, Argentina.
Mm.
So I said, Argentina. I was like, I'm pretty sure that's where Patagonia is. So I went home and Googled that night and I was like, Patagonia. So I was like, oh, dude, like, yeah, like, let's do this. So the three of us applied and we all got into this program to go teach English and live with a host family and all this other stuff in Argentina. So I moved to Argentina for like a year and a half.
Oh my gosh, I did not know this.
Yeah, so I moved there and I was teaching English and traveling South America. And the months before I even left for Argentina, I fell in love with landscape photography. So
Wow.
yeah, so there was this guy. He's a Russian landscape photographer. His name is Daniel Cordon,
Okay.
and I started following him. And I was like, I need to buy a camera and I need to go photograph Patagonia. So I go down there and I'm traveling. I'm teaching English and I'm hiking all throughout Patagonia. I'm like going to different countries while I'm there, and it's like most eye-opening experience I've ever like done.
That is insane. And
Yeah,
what an opportunity, I feel like.
right. And that was the thing. It was like I think that me deciding to do that was one of the biggest life-changing moments in my life
That's
because
crazy.
so many kids, come out of college thinking that they have to do something,
Yeah.
right? And they don't ever take time to kind of find themselves. And they always think that life is like success is only one route.
Hmm.
But in reality, it's like endless.
Hmm.
Those different journeys and those different routes are like endless.
I love it.
There's so
Yeah.
many ways to find success, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I do that and I've made lifelong friendships. I mean, I've met people on trails just hiking Patagonia that I'm friends with people in Germany now. I'm friends with people in South Africa. I'm friends with people all over Europe, like literally everywhere,
Mm.
just from that. So yeah, and then so after that year and a half was up, I come back to the States and I'm like, well, I don't want to do food service anymore. So I was like, guess I got to find a job with my degree. And then I applied to this lab and then I got in and I've been working there since 2018. So, like,
That's insane.
yeah.
S-
So I just been doing that since 2018. And then now I'm working my way up to be a supervisor in my lab. So,
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, okay. Going back to your kind of year of transition and just kind of figuring things out. And
mhm,
like I feel like even your self-awareness, right? And
right.
um I am curious, like,
Mhm,
were your parents for it or were they like kind of questioning like what is happening? Or because I feel like young people listening, that would
right.
kind of be one of the first things that comes to mind is like, oh, like your parents just let you do that. But but yeah, I mean, especially after studying biology and being like, hey, I
Right.
thought I was going to go to med school, but I decided not to.
Yeah, actually, my parents were surprisingly very supportive.
Wow.
And that was the kind of shocking thing. Obviously, being like an Asian American, it's Asian American parents usually want their kids to go like two of three routes, right? It's
Hmm.
either like lawyer, doctor, or like engineer or something that just like pays well, right? So, and I know so many friends now that absolutely hate their jobs. Like I mean it's not even a few, it's like 90% of the people that I know that are like that went into business or that went to law school or they went to dental school or medical school,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they hate it, but they did it for because it pays well.
Right. Right.
And like I know that some of them really do have a passion for it, right? Which is like I'm so happy for them, but I didn't want to end up becoming someone that hated doing what I did just for the money.
No, I feel you. And I feel like it's such a gift and blessing when your parents, especially when they come from, an Asian heritage
Right.
and culture,
Mhm.
to be like, hey, we want you to be happy. It's not about the
Right.
money.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Cause like even
So
me, I
yeah.
feel like I after college, like my parents are really Americanized, but like
Mhm.
I think I put it on myself. I felt like, oh my gosh, I just spent 4 years studying this thing and I don't want to do it anymore. What am I gonna tell my mom? And but surprisingly, my parents too. They were like, we just want you to love what you do. Um,
Yeah, and yeah, that's the thing. It's like I'm not saying what I do is like a dream job.
sure.
You know, it does get boring, and this isn't what I plan to do,
Mm.
in the next 5, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it is so interesting how I got here. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't hate my job. Like that's the thing. Like I've met like some really amazing people doing this job. Um, but if I did have any advice for anyone in their like, just coming out of college or even graduating from high school, like I would seriously sit them down and tell them like don't follow what everyone else is doing just because you feel like you have to.
Yeah, it's good advice.
Like that is good advice and it seems so simple and like logical, but so many people, like 99.9% of all the people will go that route just
Mm.
because they feel like they have to. Like
Mm-hmm.
because so many kids feel like they feel inadequate if they don't go to college and get a degree.
Yeah.
But in all reality, like everything you learn in college, you can learn on YouTube now.
No, I mean,
Yeah,
I just had this
like seriously,
conversation with somebody else, and it's so true.
like YouTube and like books. I mean, during 2020, during the COVID lockdown, like I started reading things that I wanted to learn about rather than
Mm,
learning about things or like studying things that I had to study.
yeah.
And books just became so much more enjoyable.
Yeah, yeah, for
Like
sure.
right now, I'm reading a 750-page book on basic economics,
Are you enjoying that?
like for fun. Like I enjoy it. Like I will like on a Saturday, I'll go to a brewery and like have a couple of beers and just read this book.
Wow, that sounds so fun.
Yeah, like I mean
Like
in
actually it was okay, not the economics part for me, but just like
mhm.
learning something that no one's forcing you to do because you want to. That sounds fun, you know?
And that's what a lot of young kids or people nowadays they don't take the time to go through that process to learn what they
Mm,
really enjoy. And I'm not talking about just like in a sense of like a hedonistic lifestyle, right? I'm not talking about just going out enjoying like partying or something, right? I'm
sure.
talking about finding enjoying something that you find true interest in and like
Mm,
passion is something that you want to learn about.
yeah.
A lot of kids don't do that.
Yeah.
Like right now, like I would say my main passion is like photography. Like I love photography, but and I want to turn it into something like a business like down the line. And right now I'm kind of in the process of formulating like what that process is going to look like and what's going to take to get there.
Yeah.
But a lot of kids like you ask them like I mean a lot of my friends I ask them like what they really wanted to do and it's like oh man I wanted to be like an artist. I wanted to be a musician, but those routes are, not as secure as like, working at a bank, right?
Mm.
Something like that. So yeah, there is anyone that's like just graduating high school or like just coming out of college, like please take some time to find yourself. Like go out and go explore. I mean, go travel. I mean, traveling was one of the best things I could have done for myself,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Yeah, you learn a lot about yourself, traveling by yourself too, really.
No, yeah, I
So
think that's really good. I mean, I feel like I had this conversation with somebody else, but um, you know, for so long you think you know who you are, but then, I went to school out of state and I was living by
mm,
myself, and I feel like it wasn't until then that you start to realize, oh, this is actually, you know what, I don't like this, and these are the things I
yep,
do
yeah.
like, and you don't even realize it because like, you're over your parents are like telling you what to do, or your friends are telling you what to do, and I just feel like what you said just now is such great advice, because yeah, until you like experience something on your own volition, it's not
Mhm.
like you have the clarity sometimes to even be self-aware of who you are, right? And who, like, I mean, who God intended you to be too. And so even finding a career or a job, it's like, it's like people ask you to find something you want to do right out of high school, and you're like, how am I supposed to know what I want to do? You don't even
Yeah,
know
no,
yourself.
I feel like that's the issue with um our education system is we don't
Yes.
allow exploration.
Oh man, you're
Because
about
like
to get me
what
on my soapbox, Jonathan.
like because like what if a kid is, a genius, what if he just has this natural affinity towards like fashion or something, right?
Mhm.
And he
Mhm.
can, he can be the next, I don't know, next Tom Ford. He can be the
Mhm.
next Louis Vuitton. He can be the next Gucci or something, right? And he has his passion for it, but then school tells you you have to learn these six subjects.
Yes, yes.
That's it. And then you have to learn for the SATs. And then after you're done with that, you have to go to college. And then when you go to college, you have to pick a major. And then once you pick a major, you have to go out to the real world and just find a job and work that until you retire and then you die.
Right.
Like, yeah, you can go take like 2 or 3 vacations, like maybe like 2 weeks of vacation a year. And then once you're 60, like that's it. Like
Right.
I think that's such a issue, but then you look at the people who did, like the, I guess, sort of mavericks who did and said, like, no, I don't want to go to the traditional route.
Mm.
And they end up being so successful.
Mhm.
But then in hindsight, like, they were always meant to be successful,
Mm.
because like they were the ones that had the courage to say, like, no to the traditional
Mhm.
route.
Mhm.
But that's the scariest part. And that's for me too. Like, that still, like, is like, I still have a lot of fear, like, what am I, or like who am I going to be in 5 years from now,
Yeah. Yeah.
rather than like setting a vision for myself and like praying and trusting it to God and saying, all right, let's make this happen.
Right. Yeah.
So like, luck and fortune favors the courageous, in my opinion, the brave.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if there's anything I've learned from doing this podcast and hearing people's stories and their lives is, truly you can make a plan, and most of the time it doesn't go according to plan, and
oh, never.
that is completely okay. And
Yeah, that is.
and
It really is
yeah,
though. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, literally more than half of my guests, that's their story. And I love it. I love it because I'm such a planner
Right.
myself. And I'm like, yes, like, you know what? It's okay. It's okay if it doesn't go according to plan. And just hearing your story, just like you were brave enough to, I mean, I think it's brave that you decided to go to Argentina and, you know, do something you wouldn't ordinarily do, but you felt challenged in that moment to do it, and it changed your life. And
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean,
so
because before I left for Argentina, I struggled really, really, really badly with anxiety and like panic attacks.
mm,
And for some reason, the moment I stepped foot onto Argentinian soil, it was like so much of that sort of washed away.
interesting.
Because it was my first time out of the country too.
Wow.
So it's like, wow, you're doing this by yourself with like a couple friends that you know. Like I mean, you might think like, oh, moving to a state might be like a big change, but then you move to a country that you've never been to, you don't speak the language, you don't know anyone there except for like the one or two friends that you went with.
Yeah.
And even when we got there, we were all separated because we were sent to different parts of the country,
Right, right, right.
right? So, there, yeah, and it was like learning new culture and eating new food and learning a new language. And then from there, traveling to other South American countries. And so, yeah, it like helped me out a lot, having that sort of courage to kind of step out into the unknown and into the more uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Like I always read like it's always good to, get comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And that's what I learned there. And
yeah,
it helped me out a lot in life. A lot.
yeah. That's really good. I love that.
Yeah.
Be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask, like, when you
Yes.
came back and you started to look for jobs again, I mean, I'm assuming that's out of just kind of like necessity, right? Like for like to live.
Yeah, yeah. When I got back, I was like, okay. Yeah, just like I mean, trust me, I could have gone back to food service because like
Uh-huh.
food service, if you work for the right restaurant, you can
Uh-huh.
make a ton of money.
That's what I hear.
You can make a ton of money. Like
Yeah.
some of the restaurants I was working at, I would make like in a 5-hour shift, $300-400 in cash
Dang.
and just walk out. Like, and that's not bad, but I was like, it's like it's tiring,
Right, right.
physically tiring, and
Yeah.
like emotionally when you have to deal with all these difficult people all day long,
Yes,
yeah,
trust
it's
me, I
really,
get it.
really annoying.
Yeah.
So yeah, out of necessity. So I was like, yeah, so I just shotgunned my application out to like 20 places.
Uh-huh.
And this is the one place I heard back from. I
Uh-huh.
interviewed and then I got in. And then from there, it was just like, cool. That's
Okay,
what
so
I
in
do.
order to be a grocer, like you don't really need previous experience then, like or your biology um like study in undergrad like helped you get in the door or
Yeah, you don't necessarily need yeah, you don't need experience. So actually my story is kind of difficult. Like on top of whatever happened is like you don't need a degree to be a grocer to work in this field. And
okay.
so like to become a histotechnician
Okay.
or a histotechnologist, you can get an associate's degree. All you need is like 30, I think like 30 hours of science classes.
Okay.
That's all that's required.
Mhm.
You just need to sort of prove that you're like competent, which
Mm.
doesn't make any sense to me because like I know some book genius people that are useless in their
Okay.
occupation because like study, like book study and work, they don't translate
I
one to
see.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, just because you're a book genius doesn't necessarily mean you'll be efficient in your field.
Yeah, I
Because
hear you.
I wasn't the smartest guy either. Like
Mm.
I had a very average GPA. It wasn't anything extraordinary. But I started off in this lab as like a lab assistant,
Mhm.
just doing like servant work basically, like
Yeah.
throwing away people's trash and like cleaning up the cassette printers, throwing away slides, things like that. But as soon as the position opened up, I like went up and I like kind of self advocated for myself, and I was like, listen, I want this position.
Mm.
And they like kind of they liked that. They liked that I was very straightforward and I was confident enough to say that. So I started off there and then I just worked my way up, just worked hard and worked my way up into the field. And then now I'm being considered to be a supervisor in my lab. So yeah,
That's
not too
awesome. Okay,
bad.
so I know you said that you don't picture yourself doing this forever,
Right.
but I would like to assume because from the way you talk about it, it seems like you do like it to an extent.
I do, yeah. I mean, I don't know if maybe it's my personality, but I find a lot of things interesting, right?
Okay.
Like I enjoy really like a plethora of things.
Uh-huh.
Photography, music. I mean, I played saxophone for 8 years,
Oh,
so
so
like
interesting.
yeah, like classical music, like sports I really enjoy. I play a lot of sports, medicine, biology, chemistry. Like if you take the time to learn to enjoy it on your own,
Mm.
you can like a lot of things.
Yeah.
You naturally have an inclination to kind of want to learn these things.
Mm.
So yeah, to an extent, yeah, I do enjoy it. I mean, it is it is cool to see, body parts that, kind of on their separated from the body. So I
Yes.
know that sounds a little like sociopath, like kind of like serial
Okay,
killer, but
I
like
believe you.
but like you like cut open a toe and you get to see the layers of the body.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, in this
Right.
weird way, I find that extremely interesting too. I'm like, okay, like
Yeah.
that's cool. But
Yeah, so you get to look at the bone, and then you get to look at the tendons that are attached to it, and then you get to look at the nail and where that is inserted into the toe, or like the feet and the leg. All these things when you like cut open, you look inside. It's like so much more complex than what we take for granted. What we get to walk on every day, right? So yeah, to an extent, I do enjoy it, and the idea of me doing my job well and having the possibility or like the ability to improve someone else's life is, yeah, it's a
mm,
good feeling. It is.
mm,
So,
yeah.
you know,
No, I mean it's definitely purposeful from what I hear, and I think it's super cool. Like, um, what do you like least about your job currently?
so because I work in a private lab,
Uh-huh.
we don't do a lot of rotations. In
Okay.
hospitals, you'll be assigned a different task maybe every other day.
Okay, I see.
So one day you could be a grocer, and the next day you can be an embedder, the next day you could be a stainer. So they make you rotate. But here, because everything is very fast paced,
Mm-hmm.
we don't have the time to necessarily cross train every single position.
I see.
Because if you do that, you slow down the process of the entire lab and that guaranteed 24-hour turnaround time that we do have for our clients.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be one of the main things that I sort of don't enjoy, because I get pretty bored easily.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess that's just my
I can
personality.
see that. I can see
Yeah,
that.
it's my personality. So I like to do a lot of different things all the time. Um, but apart from that, like I don't have too many complaints. Like a lot of people in the lab complain, but it's like your job is so simple and you get paid pretty well for it. Like sure, like there are some complexities to what I do,
No, I
but
feel like
like
there definitely would be, but
yeah, there are
okay.
some complexities and there is like a level of knowledge that you do need to have
Mm-hmm.
once you start learning a job. But I could pull a 17-year-old out of high school and teach him how to do this, and he could do it.
Mm.
It's not a difficult job, and we get paid pretty well.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah, I mean, you get paid I mean, it's like there's really nothing to complain about.
Oh, except the
Maybe,
fact that you're dealing with amputated limbs, but okay.
right. Yeah, like that's really like not that bad. And it's the only thing maybe I could complain about is like management wise.
Uh-huh.
I feel like sometimes our management is incompetent.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of issues of being short staffed.
I see.
So in turn, that makes everyone else a little more stressed because we have to do
Sure.
our work a little more fast, even more fast paced,
Mm,
or we're staying, 2, 3 hours of overtime, things like
that's
that. But
horrible.
but apart from that, like, yeah, I don't really have that many complaints. I'm sort of very thankful for what I have right now.
Nice. Well, okay, so you're saying though, but because you're a private lab, it's more like that. But so these histotechnicians, they also exist at hospitals, you're saying?
Yes,
Okay,
hospitals have their own labs as well.
I see. And so
And
like, uh
yeah, the main reason people do opt to work at private labs is private labs pay better.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Because
also good to know.
there are a lot more investors that kind of get involved, and I guess the profit, the private labs are a lot more, so they can pay the employees a bit more.
Mm.
But hospitals, their benefits are amazing. So
Oh.
their health insurance is really, really good.
Man, I feel like I'm getting insider information right now. It's
Yeah,
awesome.
there are a lot of things that go into this. Like, yeah, hospitals, they give you really, really good benefits, and they'll give you better like paid time off and these types of
Ah,
things. Private labs is like, all right, we're paying you more. You kind of get the short end of the stick for like everything else, though.
okay. Got
So,
it. Got
yeah.
it. Nice. Well, okay. I mean, usually I like kind of come to the end of an interview and I ask people, if they have any advice for somebody that maybe is listening to this and like, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I want to do that. Or any just life advice at all. I feel like you gave a lot of good advice already, but
Mm.
do you have any advice for somebody that's maybe thinking about going into um yeah, like being a histotechnician. Is that what it's called? Histotechnician.
Yeah. What like yeah, histotech, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I would say doing this field is like try to get certified as soon as possible because there's a certification
Oh,
test that you can take,
okay.
and that just sort of, I don't know, within the ASCP, which is like the National like Science Association uh, organization. Once you get certified, you can do a lot more things. Your pay goes
Mm.
up. You're eligible to be a travel tech too, which pays ridiculous amounts of money.
Oh,
Like travel techs, like I get emails and calls from travel, agencies all the time.
okay.
They'll offer you like $2,500 a week, in certain places for
Wow.
like 3 or 4 months assignments, and there are a lot of perks to it. So I would say like once you get in the field, study and take that certification test as soon as possible. Yeah,
Mm.
if you want to get into this type of field.
That's good to know. Do you have your certification?
Yeah, so I didn't even know about it until like 2 years into like doing what I did.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and then my one of my managers approached me and was like, "Hey, do you want to get certified?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, there's this test you can take, and you get certified, and we raise your grade, we raise your pay. And I was like, I would have started studying for that a long time ago. So I
Right.
studied really hard for that, and then I passed on the first go. So yeah, I'm
Nice.
certified.
So is it like a challenging certification or
Oh man, the test is hard.
oh,
The test
okay.
is
That's
actually really hard. Like
okay.
it's all on the computer,
Mhm.
and the images that they provide are like as if it was those pictures were taken with a potato. Like literally, like you can't tell what pixel is what,
Oh my gosh, that's
and
so
it's really
funny.
bad. So you really have to study hard to kind of memorize and like just know intuitively like, all right, what am I dealing with?
Okay.
So like they'll put a like for example, like they'll put a picture of like a there's a stain called like Giesma stain,
Okay.
and that stains for a certain strain of fungi.
Okay.
Now in the book, it's very clear. You can tell what's what. You can tell what is being stained. Like pink is being stained, like the DNA is being stained as pink. The fungi is being stained as like blue, and whatever. Right
Okay.
on the test, you don't know what is what. Like you legitimately do not like cannot tell what is what.
Okay. So you really have to know your stuff. You can't
Yeah,
just like breeze
yeah.
through this
No,
certification.
you can't just no, you can't dilly dally into it. You actually have to take a
Okay.
solid like 3 months of studying.
Okay. That's good to know. It's good to
Yeah.
know even for the profession. I feel like, it's nice to know that there are credible people, trying to figure out what's wrong with people. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
It's
So it,
good.
it's not an easy test. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Well, Jonathan, is there anything else that you wanted to like share or talk about that I didn't ask you about today?
Um,
Yeah, I can't emphasize enough for any of like the younger aged people to like before you go to college or something, or once you come out of college before you start work, save up money and go travel.
Mm,
Like seriously. Like you have to like you can be inspired in so many different ways uh through travel and seeing different cultures and the way people live. Like it can really inspire you. So that's my
yeah.
last like thing, point of emphasis. Like I just really like you guys need to go travel.
Yeah. No, it's great.
Yeah.
And I think um I know I think it's really good advice because I think we get too busy doing other things or think we're supposed to be doing something
Hmm.
instead of maybe really taking time to figure out what we really want, you know?
Right.
That's good. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again so much, Jonathan. I
Thank
really
you for having
appreciate.
me. Yeah,
Yeah,
no problem.
it was
Sure.
awesome. I just really loved even catching up after all these years.
Yeah. It was nice.
Well, hey guys, if you have any questions about anything, maybe you're like, man, this profession sounds really interesting. I'm sure Jonathan would be happy to connect with you. Am I
Yeah,
wrong in
for
saying that?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And even I bet even if you just want to chat, because I feel like Jonathan would be a really interesting guy to get to know.
I
Uh,
am very interesting. I am. I will. I am very interesting.
I'm sure he'd be happy to share more of his travels with you and just what knowledge he gained from his all his traveling, right? And
Yeah.
insight. So would you be open to that? Like young
Oh
people
yeah. I
reaching out?
mean, yeah. I'm super extrovert, so I love getting to know everyone. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
so guys, please feel free to DM me through social media and I'll get you guys connected. Or you can email me at podcastwigu@gmail.com. Thanks, guys, and thanks again, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Until next time.